So I thought we'll have a chat about mental health.
Yeah,
I thought it'd be a good topic to start off with, just to understand, I don't know, just a point of view of men's mental health really and the impact of it through just general life, growing up, friends, family, and yeah, I guess just talking about our own personal experience in terms of mental health.
yeah. But what is mental health to you? Because it's a, it's obviously the term has come up so much in recent years,
Yeah.
and it's kind of used like even for what I would see is even things that seem to be weren't considered a mental health issue years ago is now a mental health issue. So what is mental health to you?
Yeah, see, when it comes to mental health, isn't it? Everyone has a personal description of what mental health is because different people have different tolerance to different things. I think for me, mental health probably mean just to have peace in my life, really. To be able to get up, being a Muslim, pray, go to work, come home, spend that time with family and God, and that's my I would say realm of mental health. Like that's my grounds of peace. And if that gets distorted, then to me that would affect potentially my mental health because those things are quite close to me. And if they impacted, they'll put me off balance.
Do you think there is a clear distinction between mental and physical health?
I think there is. I think there's lots of studies, especially now. I went through a whole weight loss program a couple of years ago. And even though there are differences, they're both connected at the same time as well. You'll see a lot of therapists tell people to do exercise, go out in the daytime, um, to physically get yourself stronger so you can mentally be stronger as well. And physical doesn't mean you have to work out in the gym to become muscular, but just generally keeping your body connected. Um, and strength comes through both physical and mental well-being.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I think they're inextricably linked. You can't. It's kind of. I don't know how they could actually separate the two.
mm,
Because obviously, if you could feel like you've got anxiety, but actually you've just had too much caffeine. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So when people say, "Oh, I've got generalized anxiety," well, when you've got too much caffeine in your body, it gives you some of the same feelings as anxiety. Your heart starts beating with the thing, you get the jitters, and then it affects your thinking.
yeah,
Uh, but I would say mental health, it's either going to be something along the lines of you're having thoughts that you don't like seeing,
okay,
or you don't. There's a response from the thoughts that are going that you don't like the feeling of, or it could be a general state of mind. So obviously,
yeah,
if someone's in a depressed state, that's going to have an overall effect on their general mental health. I mean, by the very name of it, it's depressed, isn't it? You're depressing something, so
yeah,
you're not feeling as good as you could be. Um,
yeah,
and it's like one of the things I find interesting about it is that sometimes it's not necessarily the thoughts that cause the issue with you. It's just the fact that you're at a lower level where, do you know when like say on like when you catch a cold or you feel ill,
yeah,
and because you feel your body is not in a healthy state and you're not relaxed, your kind of chemicals in the brain are not functioning the same way.
yeah,
Like even someone putting their like mugs on the coffee table and it slamming a bit can trigger you to be angry.
yeah,
But you wouldn't usually be angry if you weren't feeling ill.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's lowered your kind of usual where you are on your baseline with your health. And then because you're in that lowered state, that simple thing that didn't bother you before now gets you annoyed and angry. Does that make sense?
It does, it does. But then you got to look at where that stems from, isn't it? You need to find out what's that, because no one just comes and goes, I got mental health or I'm suffering from mental health, you know. Um
Well, that's become the rage now. That's like people claiming mental health for everything.
True, true. And then we need to do, I think there needs to be a bit more work around to understand what is triggering a lot of mental health. If there is an increase, what's impacting? Is it environment? Is it social networking? Is it work? Is it family? And then there's so many different topics that someone needs to look at in terms of understanding how mental health impacts a person mentally or physically. Like I've just gone onto online just to type in the definition. So mental health meaning. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It helps us determine how we handle stress and relate to others and make a healthy choice. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood to adolescence through to adulthood.
Mhm. Okay.
So yeah, healthy choices. And that's not just talking about choices in food. That could be choices in friends, choices in work, choices where you go on holiday, choices of type of music. I guess it's healthy choice. Is such a varied thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But do you know what I think some people fall in the trap of is thinking that you should never feel any of the so-called negative emotions,
Yeah.
because reality is there's no way of going through life without feeling it. And like you see a lot of people chasing the high all the time, and that's why some people go down the route of constantly taking like cocaine and stuff like that. They're chasing that high, and it's like a there's no wonder then why people will get addicted to drugs or alcohol, because it keeps changing their state out of the whatever they're feeling that they can't get away from or they can't
Mm.
deal with. um, because for me, like for instance, when you've been out in the cold all day, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's freezing cold, and you may not like it at the time, whatever, and you have to struggle because you're out in the cold, maybe you're going on long walks or have to work, whatever, and then you come home and you sit in warmth, or you feel how comforting it is to have a hot shower because you've been in the cold for so long. Yeah, this this is for me why it's better to manually, like the Stoics said, to put yourself through, choosing to challenge yourself so that you become stronger and more capable to deal with stuff when it comes. This to me is like a part of the mental health game, because like where we are at now in this country, we're at such a comfort level in technology, in day-to-day ease, convenience. We have set such a low standard to where our struggles are mostly mental. We've kind of made them that way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whereas before, like my grandparents were didn't have central heating, didn't have food all year, had to dig their way out of snow, all this sort of stuff, much harder than what I'm having on a day-to-day basis. So they're kind of sort of threshold in their mind for like where you start to feel negative or struggling, they could deal with a lot more than what I could, because they had to. They had to deal with hard
Yeah.
stuff. They
Yeah.
had no
I guess they had
choice.
their own, yeah, they had no choice, yeah, and their own coping mechanism. But
Yeah,
everybody else is going through this.
yeah. So, and it's like where we've seen now about um, kids growing up now with more mental health issues, anxiety, depression, whatever it is. I mean, there are numerous reasons for that, but part of that is that they're growing up in such an easy lifestyle, and so, but the mind doesn't stop looking for problems. Of course, it's going to carry on looking for problems, but whereas like problems and like decades ago, hundreds of years ago, was what how do we find food today? It's now, uh, oh, I want to watch YouTube, and if my mum doesn't let me watch YouTube, that's like will cause me to be annoyed and angry.
Yeah.
Do you
You've
know what I
taken
mean?
something away from me. Yeah.
So it's like the if you live in such an easy lifestyle, it makes sense to me for your mental health to purposely challenge yourself. It's like we were talking about before, I think, because you end your shower on cold, don't you?
Yeah.
Now, I start my shower on cold, then I go to hot, then I go back to cold, and I finish on hot. Yeah, because I'm like a lizard. I need the heat to warm. I need heat to warm my body, otherwise
Yeah.
I won't be done. But no one has to do that. And when I say that to people, they go, "Why did you do that?" A part of it is because it's a mental challenge, and the other part is I
Mm.
know it's good for my body. It actually
Yeah.
feels good. If I stay in there for long enough, yes, the initial shock of the cold, you have to get through it and feel it. Like particularly on my back, it takes my breath away when it hits my back. But after it, I feel so much more relaxed because I've put my body through a bit of a stressor out
Yeah.
of my own choice because I could easily just turn the temperature. But I chose
Yeah.
to just start it on cold so it blasts me straight away, and I deal with that for about 30 seconds before I go to warm. But as soon as it changes over to warm, I feel great. Feel even better than if I would if I started it on hot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see. I end mine in a cold, but it's not cold, so I start off on a hot, and then I work myself away. So technically, I'm getting my body to cope with it at different temperature levels.
Yeah.
So I start really warm, and then it goes to lukewarm, and then the last 30 seconds to a minute, I'm going into 4 or 5 minutes of having a really cold shower, and that just does something inside my body, like in terms of chemicals, and I feel alert, I feel awake, um, and I feel refreshed because
Yeah.
the body's gone through. But again, it's that my body's now learning to cope, and it's
Yes.
that, isn't it? When someone's suffering from mental health, is how do you help them to learn to cope with something, with anything in life? It's
Yeah.
that example you gave when you go out in the cold. It's cold for the first few minutes or even 5-10 minutes, but then your body starts working its magic, and then it gets used to the cold, and then you're not cold anymore because you've forgotten about the cold and moved on to I've got a goal, I need to get there. The cold's not an impact anymore. Yes, initially it was, but now it's not a problem. Now
Yeah.
my journey is the thing, so it's going to take me how long to get there, and then you're okay. And like that, it's just helping people get through, finding a way they can cope through their journey. So if you talk about that journey, it's
Yeah.
initial shock, help them understand what was it, and then get them think, well, afterwards you were okay with it, right? Oh yeah, and then helping them to stay around that good feel factor, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just reminded me actually, I I used to despise the word cope.
Yeah.
Despise it. Do you know why?
It is
Because
hard, yeah, because everyone just throwing it around, isn't it? You cope with it. Just cope with it.
yes, because when like since I started really delving deep into trying to figure out what was going on with me in my teens, and I kept seeing articles and stuff. Oh, these are coping skills. These are ways to cope, and I'm thinking, well, I don't want to cope. I want to find what is actually causing the problem and resolve it. Now, back then, I was a bit too naive in my thinking like, oh, I could resolve the depression I was in or the anxiety, so I'll never feel anxious again, which is obviously the wrong way to think because you can't just get rid of anxiety. It's there for a reason. Doubt
Yeah.
the men there's always two aspects. You can have a mental anxiety, which is because you doubt you're not confident. You may have a decision to make and you've got multiple ways it could go and you're not confident. So naturally you're going to feel a bit anxious because you don't know which is the right decision. You're trying to figure it out. And then you've got what could be the chemical or biological reasons for anxiety, which is your body basically saying something underneath is not quite
Yeah.
it's not quite
Right.
healthy, giving you that sense of confidence and strength. And like that could be as simple as magnesium. Most people are deficient in magnesium, and it's a natural calming substance. So if you're deprived of magnesium, you tend to feel a lot more on edge. That's completely chemical based rather than mental. But when I was thinking about coping, it comes with that kind of
Yeah, it sounds like it's like a what's it called, plaster, isn't it? You know, when you cut yourself,
yes,
you put a plaster on. It's only temporary. The
yeah,
word cope is just temporarily deal with it.
yeah,
But you don't
this,
want to just deal with it. You want a long-term solution to overcome it.
yes, exactly.
You know, and you want to do more than coping with it, because
Yes,
coping just feels like a defense mechanism. You know, when you're under attack, you defense, but then it goes down again. But then how many times you can do that? That's coping itself will tire you out.
yeah. It's like an acknowledgement that you have to have it for the rest of your life, and then you cope with it.
Mm.
But there's so many like this is where I've kind of got frustrated with the general doctors and general view of the health system, because if they don't know what's wrong with you, they just subscribe you
Medication.
medication and send you on your way. You know, I was after going back and forth with doctors quite a few times, they eventually said, "Oh, we think it's fibromyalgia." Done no tests. They were just going to send me away with painkillers, and I came away from it, and I just was like, "I'm not going to do this," because I know there's bound to be other philosophies out there, other ways of thinking about health, other ways that will improve my situation. And lo and behold, trial and error, it has.
Yeah.
And I would have just been on the painkillers for 10 years, doing
Wow.
making me worse overall and not solving any root issues. But of course, from the psychological aspect with mental health, from a lot of the articles, books, etc. that I've read, a lot of it can stem from childhood if you've got some fundamentals that went wrong in your childhood.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't feel secure, if your parents split up, um, if they didn't give you the safety and reassurance as a kid, uh, it can basically fracture your mind in a way. It varies in degrees, of course, and how people, particularly with relationships, how it affects your relationships, finding a partner, absolutely, you know. Uh, and then there's going through us, and that to me is like a clear psychological impact on your mental health. Like if something's happened during your most
Yeah.
vulnerable years where you don't understand, you haven't got the same mental faculties as you have now,
Yeah.
then of course that can set you up. If it's not addressed at a younger age, it can set you up for more challenging views of the world that are going to make you feel either more anxious or more depressed or more untrustworthy of other people. Uh, and of course, once you get to adulthood and you haven't got the safety net of being a kid anymore, or
Yeah.
or the naivety of being a kid anymore, you're just expected to just be straight away an adult. Then it's tough, because if you've got to go to work and you're anxious all the time and you don't know why, but it's something that happened to you 12 years ago, your brain is obviously it's not working against you. It's just doing what it's been programmed to do from a young age.
Yeah.
And there I think it can be the most difficult challenges to overcome is the childhood stuff.
Yeah. Because I think you mentioned sometimes that you've actually, for spiritual well-being, you did did you do something to do with the Buddhist religion or mindfulness?
Yeah, so I started my first sort of book dipping into Eastern philosophy was a book called Mindfulness. So I went down that path, um, and seen it from that sort of point of view with meditation. Um, and meditation's just been a part of my life for like over 10 years now.
Yeah.
I find it's always one of those things where it brings like not every meditation session is lovely and calm and relaxing. It's not. Sometimes I sit through it for like half an hour and I'm just as agitated as I started. but but it creates that distance when you're stuck in a loop, a mental loop. If you're stuck in a
Yeah.
mental loop and you're ruminating, it gives you that little chance of distance for your mind to kind of settle down a little bit, try and figure stuff out. Um, But to me, like that's a no-brainer to really understand that you're not your thoughts, you're
Mm.
not your emotions. It is something separate, and I know that can seem weird to people because it's almost like we talk about the Matrix and stuff like that. Well, if you're always stuck in your patterns of thought, you never look outside of it, then that's like being again another it's analogous to being stuck in the Matrix. Unless you can take yourself out of it and
Yeah.
kind of observe yourself from a different point of view and go, oh, there's a thought that goes by, there's a thought that goes by. And when I think this thought, this feeling comes up, instead of just being stuck in it, then yeah, you would be in the matrix.
Yeah.
It's like a matrix.
Yeah, true. I think that is a great analogy. If you are able to step out of your own body and be able to see those thoughts from your brain and think, okay, well, those ones are ones that trigger me or impact me the most, take them out, and then really look deep into them and to understand what is about that, and then there's a lot could happen. You could have childhood trauma, um, adolescent trauma. There's through like different life stages, different everyone goes through different stuff, like losing parents at a young age,
Yeah,
or parents going through a divorce at a young age, or you've got a loss of a friend at a young age, because when you're in school, you feel like you're gonna grow up with all the people in your primary school. These are the best friends in the world. And then you're anxious from year 6 to 7 to move because some of your friends didn't get the school that you wanted to go to, or you didn't get a chance to go to the school that your friends gone to. So that impacts me. Oh my god, I'm going to lose my friends that I've always thought I'm going to be with. And then you make a new set of friends, and the same feeling goes from going from the year 12 into year 11, year 12, going into obviously college and stuff like that. Who am I going to go with? And it's that constant making choices in life, isn't it?
yeah. I'm interested though to hear because what the word trauma is used very sort of
Ooh, yeah.
it's used a lot these days, and what to you is the distinction between someone who's got trauma or someone who has got something that's lesser than trauma?
Yeah, I think yeah, again, it's how people perceive it, isn't it? Someone to me, I don't know. If I lost somebody, I might not be as warm towards it and just think, okay, part of life, and it's okay. Depending on my upbringing, someone else could be like, this is what a loss feels like. I don't want to lose anybody else again.
Yeah,
So and then there's all these questions. We believe obviously there's a loss in Islam that hopefully one day we'll meet them in heaven. So there's that part of the hope that we'll see them again.
mm,
So we make prayer for the dead and stuff like that. If we lost someone, if we're talking about just loss trauma in terms of loss of people, so we've got that hope there that helps us, um, again to understand, the emotions and feelings we're going through. Yeah, instantly we're obviously sad and there's a lot of emotions, understanding it at that time. But then you realize, you know what? Yeah, it's okay. We hope to see our loved and lost ones in heaven. So trauma, yeah, it depends on who it is, their upbringing. Some people come from a family where you know things are always happening, so they're just okay, just another part of life. But some people might think this is what a perfect family looks like, and then parents go through a divorce, or mum or dad goes missing, or they lose a mum and dad while they're young or growing up. No one hopes to do that.
yeah,
So yeah, so it's the individual again. I think we shouldn't prescribe what trauma means to a person. I think this is what happens in mental health, isn't it? We prescribe to people, this is what you should be feeling, this is what it is. But I guess we should let people decide if someone says it's really tough for them, let's take that and say, okay, it's tough, rather than saying, yeah, it's tough, but everybody else gets through it, and you should be able to get through it. I think we should let people let emotions out. What we try to do is try to, like you said, suppress, and you get the word depress from trying to shut something down, and we shouldn't do. We shouldn't do. I remember someone telling me about a book about their children and this is what helped them. They said it was a great book in terms of obviously the idea behind it. And they said, something about big boys don't cry or something like that on those lines.
That sounds
But
familiar.
but the book was about letting, especially boys, let the emotions out. You hear the terms in it, oh, you're a man or you're a boy, you shouldn't be crying, you shouldn't be showing emotions, it's a sign of weakness and all this stuff. But if people start bottling emotions up, it might come out in the wrong way when it is tapped, and they might not know how to deal with it. But if they're brought up saying it's okay, as a human being, forget about male or female and how you need to deal with it. As a human being, it's okay. We go through emotions, and that's how you learn to how to not cope with it, but you learn how to what's the word I'm looking for? Like when it comes to you know how to deal with it. It's like a situation. If you've never been in a fight, you don't know what you're expecting.
Yeah.
So you don't know if you to defend yourself or you need to go fighting. You don't know to run away. You need to shout. What do you do? And you go through your first, say, street ball or a fight in school and stuff like that. Then you're like, oh, okay, well, it may have been really bad, or maybe someone might say, oh, it's not that bad than I thought. Now I know next time someone attacks me, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But then if you're not taught those kind of mechanisms at young age that, what, something traumatic happens, how do I deal with it? Then later on in their life, they might find it more difficult to deal with anything, not just obviously fighting, work, life, relationships, friendship, religion, trying to find spirituality. So yeah.
Well, and it's a good point because it's almost a counterproductive thing because if you because I went through this absolutely. My father is a very masculine, powerful man. Yeah, doesn't show his emotions much. And obviously as a son looking up to my father, I naturally wanted to emulate him. But because of the challenges I faced from a young age, and I didn't go down the path of being feeling strong and confident. I had anxiety and started to get physical symptoms since I was about 16. Probably actually earlier than that, about 14-ish was when I first went to the doctors. I started having, I was very tired all the time, started to have joint pain. But these to me were manifestations of mental issues coming even before, which was having a knock-on effect on my body. Because we were talking about suppression of emotions. Well, if you suppress it, it still has to go somewhere, and where it ends up is manifesting as physical symptoms. That's why the term IBS comes up all the time in people, and it's such a generalized term, irritable bowel syndrome, which means it doesn't actually say what it is. It just means that something is causing the bowel to be irritable. That could be 1,000 things. But anxiety, tension, anger tends to come from that area of the body. That's where it seems to be like not saying it's like a physical energy as such, but it is like, if you feel anxious, you feel it in your gut. That's why you got those sayings like, I got a knot. I feel like I got a knot tied in my gut. It's there.
Or when you're nervous, you got butterfly feelings.
Yeah, and you feel it in your stomach. And then, of course, so that does give you that physical feeling of affecting you. But it created this sort of idea then that I was weak and I shouldn't show weakness and that I shouldn't say what I thought was true. I was too scared to, that I'd get bullied, etc. But it then creates a downward spiral because you want to speak what you think is true, and then you create all these sort of fabrications in the mind of why not to do it. You get rejected by someone else. You'll be seen as weak if you cry. You'll, all around basically trying to feel connected to other people and love and accepted. Like that's the thing, isn't it? And when you're saying about the sort of the boys don't cry thing, I actually think it's not about not crying. It's not about not showing that you're angry. It's it's being honest and just accepting that you feel these emotions and you're willing to express it to someone else, and then come what may. Because you can have that. I think the fear that can come from people is you're going to be seen as being lacking discipline or lacking self control if you get angry at something, and then you'll be judged for it. When in reality, if you're angry at something, if you choose to express it without it boiling over into a rage because you've suppressed it for so many years, most likely it'll come out quite assertive rather than aggressive.
Mm.
I think that's like a key distinction between the two. Because I noticed in times in my life where I've suppressed, and then it came out as a rage. It's like 0 to 120 miles an hour instant. There's no buffer.
Yeah.
It just build, and then boom, and that's where it comes out. It's kind of similar going back to that. Someone just putting their mug on the coffee table a bit too loudly, and you've just been building. It takes that one thing to come out and snap. But of
Yeah.
course, the ideal is to not even get to that bursting point in the first place. It's
Yeah.
to express it first.
It's like road
It
rage,
goes
isn't
up.
it?
Yeah, it's to express it first as soon as possible and have that open conversation. Even
Mm.
now in my mind, I'm thinking like in a relationship, it seems like it's weakness if you say to your partner, especially as a man, say, look, what you did the other day really annoyed me. It really did, and then my mind is going, yeah, you shouldn't say that. You don't need to say that. Just get on with it, sort of thing. But reality is, you're not expressing what you truly think, feel. And so
Yeah.
by doing that, you think, oh, if I don't express it, I'll be more manly, I'll be more masculine. But actually, you just become more and more annoyed. And then the immature side comes out, as in, because you've allowed it to get to the point where you go into rage.
Yeah.
Or you go in the reverse, where you implode. So you go
Yeah.
from feeling like you're you get that suppression feeling that comes in, but you don't even you become passive then, and you try and
Yeah.
you make up a rationale of, oh, it's better if I don't say something because it won't offend someone else. It's better if I don't say something because otherwise I might get more flack for it. So and if you're going through this as a child going into teens, where it's already really confusing for teens with all the hormones, trying to find your place in school, and like you said, even
Try and
just
find a
go,
place in society, really. Yeah.
yeah, of course. I think schools is like a mini society, isn't it? It's its own ecosystem in the school. You're trying to figure out what your place
Mm.
is, and for some people, it's terrible because if you get the whiff, if the bullies get the whiff of you, and you're that kind of person where they just know that they can push and push and push you, then you'll become a target, and then
Mm.
you've got some choices to make then. Um, but I feel like I have some people close to me who uh, they're sort of in their sort of going into the teens, and I see them and I feel for them big time because I see that they're struggling inside. Yeah, there's a struggle going on, and they don't know quite what to do. They don't know how they're feeling, uh, and it's it's very challenging, especially to speak to kids about it. Well, I find it challenging because I can have these sort of intellectual conversations with adults, but how to explain to a child who is 12, 13 years old, going through those emotions, very
Yeah.
challenging, you know?
Yeah. I think with me, it's more because of the roles that I've done in career wise and being in supportive, I find it okay because what you're trying to do, and I think I use this not just on children but on adults as well, is just to let them know it's okay. It's okay. I'm always here, and slowly building that relationship up rather than saying, "Oh, what's wrong? What's on your mind? Say it to me." But just let them know whenever you see them, whenever you hear them, and you know something's wrong, just say, "Look, I'm here for you. Just let me know. When you're ready to talk. And just let them know it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to talk." And I think that's really important.
Yeah, yeah. and again, it's like they can they can get wrap it in their mind where it's like they feel like they can't talk,
Yeah.
or that they again that
Or there's going to be judgment.
there's going to be judgment, uh, and I look at it and I go prevention rather than cure, because if you can somehow help them during those development stages before they get to adulthood, it might not clear up all the issues, but if you can somehow get in there and have that influence, it can be such a change for them by the time they get to an adult.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the way I look at it: prevention rather than cure. But yeah, mental health. It's a whole tricky, and then you've got like once you go down the rabbit hole like I did, and looking at how to overcome certain things. There's so many different methods, so many different philosophies, so many different ideas. I've paid for some stuff where I look back on and I go, why did I believe that? Ridiculous. Like, just fell for it. And like, so many
Nah, I don't think you. Yeah, I'm obviously trying to find the right thing. I wouldn't say you fell for it. Obviously, you look at seeking for an answer, isn't it? Seeking
yeah,
solutions. You are out there trying to help, and it's such a open market, isn't it? To trying to find help, and it's very difficult to tailor make something for you. Either somebody use the box standard mental health, how to deal with it, what's your problems, and that's it, or you find someone who's really good that really taps into your inner soul to find what the real problem is, tackle that,
yeah,
and then thinking, do you know what, it's okay. It's like, people that are scared of heights, and then once they go up, they're on the top, and they're like, oh, do you know what, it's not too bad. It's that, isn't it? Taking it them there, letting it out, and said, you know, it's just that it's a weight, isn't it? It's that unseen weight on your shoulder when you're going through a lot of issues and problems that you have in the past that's impacting your future.
yeah. I was just thinking then, you using the example of heights. And my fear of heights has gone up over the years, even though I've done more things with heights.
But what the reason again? But what was the reason? Did you actually do heights to go solve the height problem, or was it just because obviously it was a, I don't know, roller coaster at some theme park?
Well, when I was 21, I did skydiving, and I naively thought, oh, well, if I'm scared of a height from like I don't know 4 stories high looking down, then if I do a skydive, which is like 15,000 feet in the air, nothing will scare me again. That didn't work out.
Did you do skydive? Did you actually do the dive though?
I did skydive. Yeah,
Amazing. Yeah.
yeah, and it was amazing. I was free falling, and then as soon as the parachute came up, my mind kind of slowed down. Then I looked down and realized, oh, I'm 6,000 feet up, and I'm just strapped to a guy. And yeah, it's scary.
I guess
But
that's a good analogy to use, isn't it? It's that letting go. You done it, you know, because
yeah,
if you were to say to go somewhere, you're like, hang on, but I've done 15,000 feet high,
yeah,
4 stories high isn't bad for me. 10 stories high. So you've got to the extreme of the heights,
yes,
so to help somebody to go through that, to help them to manage that emotion or feeling if they have to go somewhere higher again, is hang on, but I've been higher, so it's okay. It's like sometimes when, especially myself, like being a Muslim, we're always told, don't look at what you don't have, look at what you have, and look at the people that have less than you.
mhm,
So when you don't have something, you're feeling okay. You're like, okay, do you know what? It's not too bad actually. I felt like, oh my god, I need more money. I need to get a better job. I need to get more houses and stuff like that. But there are people that live in less than me and they're happy with it.
yes,
How can I be happy or content with what I've got currently now? And then trying to help that emotion by looking at that. Because if I look at someone who's got more than me, yeah, the aspiration is great. But if it's unattainable, then you should be okay with that as well. You should be like, I want to reach there, but if I don't get there, then it's okay because I
yeah.
know I'm trying to get there. And whatever happens in the path, just accept it as each journey because it will have its challenges.
See, I'm glad you touched on that, because from a men's mental health point of view, and I'd say this comes down to our biology to a lot of the dating market. But there is a big push, particularly, I don't know what it's like from a Muslim perspective or from predominantly Muslim countries, but certainly from a Western point of view, there is the push, the ideas of needing to be big and muscly, needing to have loads of money, needing to have the big car, the big house, etc., to all basically just to attract a woman. Yeah. And then what you get is especially with social media, is it's the look rather than the substance within. So, because I went down the trap as a teen, thinking about just exercising to get women, building up the muscles, then they'll just come to me, which is ridiculous to look back on. Yeah,
But you say that,
absolutely
but majority
ridiculous.
probably are in the gym, probably,
But
But
what that creates though is this: you've got a guy who he's got anxiety issues, perhaps he's depressed, he views the world in ways which are not optimal, and of course his wiring is telling him, go get a woman, go get a woman. It's always there, always there. It's for striving, procreation. So one of the things you can easily go to, oh, women say they like muscles, so I'll just go to the gym and work out, get big muscles. And instead of, so then that work, that's what it can create then, almost like a narcissistic, superficial view, because you're only basing your worth to get another partner on how you look.
Mm.
Do you see what I mean? And
yeah,
I think a lot of guys fall into this trap at a young age. They think it's about an image, a look. They just get the muscles, and then and then all they're attracting basically is a superficial side of a woman, just looking at you for what you can give them from a superficial standpoint. I'm not saying it's everything or every scenario, but to me, it was a trap I fell down, and I see a lot of guys doing it. They've got mental issues, and they've got things where they're not being themselves, and you can tell. Like, you can tell when someone's being genuine overall. I think intuitively, if you listen to your body, you kind of get almost like a radar, an alarm bell going if someone feels like they're being disingenuous or inauthentic.
Yeah.
And you can tell when guys are very nervous. I feel it in myself because I'm not where I want to be either. But you feel like there's something underlying going on. Like, I'm not getting the true side of this person, and it's very noticeable when you speak to those people, because it's like you speak to them and it's just like, wow. Like, I say to my friend, one of my friends, who is a woman, but she is, there's no facade. She is who she is, and you feel it. She's there. You're speaking to someone who is speaking honestly and openly with you completely. She's got no depression, no anxiety. She still feels her emotions. She still has struggles, but speaking to her is complete pure. And it's amazing to experience that coming from someone like me who's been depressed and anxious and confused since an early age. That's the goal. That's why I would love to feel throughout every part of my body, to be authentic in how I communicate, be day to day.
Yeah.
And you can, like I said, from a man's point of view, because of the way we're wired to chase for women and attract and get a mate, you can very easily fall down this idea that you just need to get money, muscles, big car, and you're forgetting about being actually authentic, your character.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a balance, isn't it? When you're looking for a partner, it's you got, as much as you want to take, you got to give as well. So
yeah,
you got to be physically in a good place, meaning as where you feel comfortable with. That will bring your self-confidence out because you physically feel good. And then you got to bring your character out as well. So when looking for a partner, and it's for opposite sex as well. They should be willing to not just look for the exterior, but then also allow men to express who they are in terms of their inner beauty, and then see if they match from that, and not just judge it on, hang on, they got to look like a certain way, they got to have a certain thing, because then the pool of that becomes small. It's like 1%.
Yes. Yeah.
If there's millions of men, then that pool isn't. And then you got men that don't feel
Yeah.
they're there, then they're chasing women that want the 1%, and then it's like a vicious cycle, isn't it?
Yes. But you think now though about how if an average guy is being passed up a lot, for instance, on dating apps, because of course the dating apps condition you to basically focus on looks straight away. Like I'm trying to think this idea of if you were to meet someone in person who you might have just rated as like a 6 out of 10 on an app, but this person comes up to you with such charm and energy and enthusiasm, and instantly you're like, wow, this is fantastic. This I'm intrigued by this person. All of a sudden they've gone up like a 9 out of 10. But then it could go the other way. They're 6 out of 10, and they come up and they're obnoxious. There's something off about them. They don't see. They seem like they've got an ulterior motive, and then they're down to like 3 out of 10. But of course, on an app, you never get that. It's just the look.
True. I feel like speaking from my experience, when people have on the dating app, especially like some of my friends that have been on there, like they've hadn't had much success. But when I've looked through their profile and then the stuff they've written on there isn't, I don't know, it's not great read. So someone might see a picture and wants to know about a person, and if their bio doesn't fit in, they're like, well, okay, well, like you said, they're probably average, you know. Let me see if they've got a great personality, and they can only capture that from words that they've written on the bio. So then I've gone and helped them to change the bio around just to give them a bit of help, and they've had instant success because they start to talk about their feelings and emotions and stuff like that on their bio, rather than just saying, yeah, oh, I'm interested in this and I'm interested in that and stuff like that. But they don't write stuff like they might be interested in poetry, or they go for walks in the morning, or they enjoy something. You won't hear a lot of that kind of stuff on like a man's profile. There's not a lot more emotions being expressed. So the woman doesn't have much of a choice. She goes through what the physical thing is. It's a yes or a no, because the profile looks really boring.
Yeah. But like, whereas the sort of circle I was coming to is if a guy's got issues when it comes to dating, like for instance approaching women, because let's be honest, the app stuff is very new in terms of our history. Like if you wanted a woman, you had to go up to women and speak to them. There's no two ways about it. Something had to happen in person, basically. But if you're anxious to the point where you don't attempt to do it, and you're avoiding conversation, you're nervous, perhaps you tried it, you've made a few mistakes, etc., and then you think, oh, all I have to do is go get big muscles and loads of money. You're not addressing what the issue is. And the funny thing is, even if you did get a woman, whatever those underlying anxious issues are, they're going to come up in the relationship.
Yeah.
So you think if that person, even if he's an average guy, if he addressed those issues that was going on inside him, whatever they were, whatever was causing it, and then he starts talking to women just generally, perhaps not even trying to flirt, just making a comment on what she's wearing or where she's going to. You know, sometimes if someone wears something, it's an indication of what they might like or whatever, and they get better at just wanting to socialize.
Yeah.
And just knowing that from a fundamental point of view, that socializing is overall a positive thing, just to get to know people, make someone smile in the day, whatever, see if someone could use help. Then that in the moment is someone's character coming through and letting go more and more of what was holding them back in the first place. What was saying to them in the first place that somehow speaking to a person is dangerous. And do you know what I think one of the sayings is growing up? that instills that as a belief. Don't talk to strangers. Yeah, I heard that growing up
Yeah,
many
yeah,
times, many
yeah.
times by my mother and my grandmother. Don't
School,
talk to strangers.
even school,
Same in
primary
school.
school. Yeah,
But what does that actually say? And it came up in a book about what you're saying to your kids. Because what it's like, if as a parent you say don't talk to strangers, from the
it should have
parent,
been more like don't talk to strangers. They look like this. You know?
yeah, well,
Clarification.
yeah, it's like what they're saying is, and I understand it. Parents going, don't talk to strangers because I'm afraid if you do, the stranger might
Yes,
take you.
the why behind it. The
Yeah,
why.
there's
Yeah,
that fear, but obviously from the child's point of view, they're looking at the world going, but this is such
yeah,
a
could do.
lovely world. This is amazing. I just want to adventure around. But if they keep being told, don't talk to strangers, and it's
Yeah,
coming, and it's a felt
it's
danger.
confidence, isn't it? Yeah,
Well, what does that set up then for when you want to meet new people?
yeah.
There's that initial
Or
feeling of
friends.
it's dangerous rather than
Mm.
and the reality is most people we've got end up speaking to are fine. They don't want to harm us. They don't have any problems with us. Most of them.
Mm.
There's going to be people who live in other areas of the world or different towns and stuff where yes, it is more dangerous.
Especially now online. Don't speak to strangers. You
Well,
don't know who's behind.
well, online I think it's
On
even worse because obviously
Yeah,
people are hiding behind fake profiles and all that sort
yeah,
of stuff.
yeah,
But that I found because I remember thinking about the things that I've been told over and over again growing up and how it may have affected my thinking, and that was one to me that was very clear. Like if you want to socialize, if you want if you want your kids to more likely to be sociable and more open to start conversations with people, there needs to be framed differently. Not saying don't talk to strangers because it literally is saying how like especially as a guy if you're meaning to go out and speak to girls and socialize and you've been told don't talk to strangers over and over and over, it can definitely affect your mental health, your mental view of socializing. Because yes, you don't want to be naive to the point where you're literally seeing someone in front of you with a knife and you just go up to them and go, oh hi, how are you doing, and they're looking like they're
yeah,
about to kill someone.
yeah. I think as a child, you need a bit more clarification, and we need to treat children a little bit more like adults to give them, do you understand? What is it? Test and check on those feelings rather than just giving them loads of, yeah, I get it as a baby, you're given instruction, walk, talk, pick up, eat, but as the cognitive brain starts picking up more and more languages and starts to grow, then children need to understand. And like, yeah, like you said, the definition of don't talk to strangers, if they were to say, well, yes, strangers that will harm you, because otherwise school's a strange place, teachers a strange place, friends are a strange place, all these things will have an impact on somebody trying to make their way through life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know if it could be said as a definite, like how that would affect a child, but it's messaging at the end of the day that's
So
going
messaging, yeah,
straight into the brain. Don't talk
yeah,
to strangers, don't talk to strangers over and over. And there's that fear that's behind it. So, the child can pick up on that fear,
mm,
and
yeah,
and I understand it. It's a very clear instruction that a parent could give to the child where it kind of, in some sense, you want to make them, you want to put them into a state of alertness to go, oh, if a stranger is coming up to me and going, do you want a sweet or do you want to come into the car? Then
yeah,
they're going to have that memory of, oh, mum said, don't talk to strangers, get out of it. So I
yeah,
get that. I 100% understand it. It's just the implications, the possible implications of when they become an adult. The idea of going into social situations then where there's tons of people who don't know, there's no wonder then there's a lot of people who've got generalized anxiety because
mm,
until they know someone, until they trust someone, they understand someone, then they finally relax. But if they don't know the person, they're on edge until it's over. And I often wondered why, for instance, I get on so much better overall with one-to-one conversations, but I struggle more in group conversations. And I think that's a part of it because at least one-to-one, I can get to know the person very quickly. There's just us. There's nothing distraction, etc. But when there's a group, again, if you think that don't talk to strangers, your mind is trying to figure out if all these strangers are safe to speak to.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to do if it's all. Hence, then, if you've got to do a presentation in front of a load of people, Jesus, then that just takes it to the next level. Because you've got all these strangers looking at you, judging you, and your brain's going, don't talk to strangers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's those kind of things that I think can really set up.
Yeah, for an adult.
Well, not just men's mental health, girls'
Children's.
mental health as well.
Yeah.
But I
girls,
think,
men's.
yeah, when you consider that men, when it comes to the dating game, that men generally the ones needed to pursue and chat to girls, then of course it would be more of a problem, because if they're already saddled with tons of anxiety and they don't want to approach, then it's gonna have a more hindering effect on them finding a partner than the woman, I would say.
I think that would be great on our next one, to talk about dating apps and setting yourself up for success.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Should we end it there?
Yeah.
Yeah.